And welcome to another exciting episode of The Energy That Surrounds Us. I'm your host, Michael Kopf. And before I introduce my guest, who I'm sure truly needs no introduction,
Ah,
I wanted to take a moment and thank everyone for viewing tonight and for chiming in. And I want to say thank you to my guest. He was a serviceman with the Coast Guard. So thank you from my show to you for your service.
I appreciate it. And I don't know Kevin Costner. I know he played in the movie in the Coast Guard, but we never met up.
So yeah, we were discussing that backstage, everyone. So I am so thrilled, and I know we have quite a few topics that we could totally delve into. So I'm anxious to see which ones we get into. But I am going to stop taking time from the show with my chatter, and I am going to hand it over to the one, the only, the awesome Paranormal Highway.
You mean I get to take over?
You get to take over.
No, I accidentally did that once. I'm not lying. Bigfoot Michigan Rob invited me on his channel. It was like the first time, and he also had Jessica Jones co-hosting. You know,
Nice.
and they're supposed to be interviewing me, but Jessica Jones was so interesting. I was like interviewing her on his show.
I know. I don't blame you.
and Rob's like, Eric, this is my show. We're interviewing you. But you know what? When you know what I mean. When you meet certain people, you get so interested. Like, forget about me. I want to know about you.
I know.
But no, I appreciate you inviting me on. I was people backstage. I was I haven't done a late show in a long time, so my green screen just did not work down here. The coloring, I couldn't get the lighting, so like, screw it. Threw down the green screen and all that. But no, I appreciate it. I appreciate you inviting me on. This is fun. I didn't do a live show today because I was like, no, I don't need to do a live show today. I'm warming up for Michael.
Oh, I feel so touched. And so, for obviously everyone knows you, but for those who may be catching the replay and being like, Eric Wood, Gypsy Rose, Paranormal Highway, who is this? Could you give a little background?
Well, sure. For any new people, they might see my name and they see Gypsy Road. That might confuse some people too. But my original channel, when I first started my channel back in 2018, it wasn't called Paranormal Highway. It was actually called Gypsy Road.
Oh, okay.
And yeah. So a lot of people, knew it was a little confusing for a lot of newer people that came in. They're like, Eric, why everybody's calling you Gypsy? I mean, you're wearing a cowboy hat and stuff. And like, well, that's because that was my original show. And the only reason why I actually had to change it was because there were a lot of complaints to the YouTube community or to the YouTube platform, who's ever in charge of it, because they're saying the name Gypsy is a racist name now.
What?
Yes. They said the name Gypsy, so they're like encouraging me to, we'll get to Danny part because Danny has made part, because if I didn't change it, it could shut down under the rules of whatever, like harassment or something. And it's like, anybody who knows me knows that's far from the truth. Gypsy Road really comes from a song, Cinderella, about driving all night till you see the light. It's about taking that traveling down the road, never stopping, keep going. Like the culture of the Gypsy Road culture keeps going. And that was the name. So, and then I was asking people in the chat, like, well, if I had to rename it, what should I name it? And then Danny says, Paranormal Highway. Take the road, steroid it up, move it to a highway instead of a road. So that's the name change. But you know what? I'm almost thinking about, like, you know what? Screw YouTube. I'm really seriously thinking about changing the name back, because I really truly miss the Tipsy Road name. That's why I've been putting it next to my name again, getting it warmed up. I
You
might
know
be,
what you could do?
but the thing is, the name doesn't make the channel. It's the person, right?
Right. But
Not
what you
the
could
person.
do to be funny is change it to Paranormal Gypsy Highway. Combine the two and see what they do.
Yeah, because the whole idea, when I started my channel in 2018, actually, hold on. I actually had other channels before that. I had a channel that, believe it or not, I called myself Mr. True Thoughts. And as the show was about my true thoughts,
Right.
but got shut down twice, got shut off the air. And I'll tell you why. I still don't know why to this day. My brother had his channel, and he talks, we're into the Mandela Effect. We love Mandela Effect conversation. So I thought, hey Bob, let's do a show together. I'm going to interview you about the Mandela Effect, right? So
Right.
this is like back in 2018. It wasn't really like super known. And I tell you, after one interview with my brother on the Mandela Effect, YouTube shut me down because of the subject matter. So and the thing is, Michael, my brother's channel never got shut down. So I did another Mr. True Thoughts with the underscore, just changed the dot to an underscore, and I got him back on. Did another Mandela Effect show, shut down. So then then my brother got some strikes, right? He got strikes on his channel, so he couldn't go live. And then my brother wanted to go live. He's at my house. I'm like, well, I got my other channel called Gypsy Road. That's just my casual channel that I used to just upload videos. Never did live. Let's do on that. And we did it, and it's just stayed. And that channel never left. Even though we did talk a lot of Mandela Effects on that channel, they still haven't shut me down. It's just kind of funny to bring this up, because that some of this stuff is still kind of new to communities, like the Mandela Effect. Back in
Right.
2018 and behind, they literally try to shut you down because Mandela Effects is considered automatically like false lies. Like giving false information. So they put that under that category, like a news. Like if you do false news or something, they can take your channel off.
Right.
But now almost a lot of people do Mandela Effect shows, never gets taken down. But there was that time that we were getting taken down for the Mandela Effect. And to me, the Mandela Effect to this day is still one of the most intriguing paranormal things out there, right? I mean, it really is, because if I'm talking too much, I apologize. But
Oh, you're good.
what I always try to tell people, like Sasquatch, it's either, real or not real. That's the middle ground. It's real or not real. And if it's real, what is it? What's the DNA of it? Aliens, it's either real or not real. Flesh and blood or not flesh and blood. Oh yeah, hey, people in the chat. Last night I went and saw Sasquatch Sunset. That's a good Sasquatch movie, people. Gross, but good. But now paranormal is more intriguing, because paranormal, you're dealing with life after death, energy. So that's not like a 50-50, is it real or not? It's energy. If it's real, why is it real? What happened? Somebody died? How, that's even more magical. But now, when you get to the Mandela Effect with different memories, oh, that opens up a whole different kind of can of worms. You know what I mean?
It is, and it's interesting too, talking about hitting the paranormal. It's not like you can go and say, well, according to this book, what you experienced is right and real, and according to this text, there is no anything. There is no baseline. So it's like I always laugh when people go, well, that you couldn't experience that. I'm like, why? What makes you the authority that
I know.
when there is no authority.
Well, and the biggest problem with the Mandela Effect is not everybody has the exact same memory. So when somebody doesn't have the same memory as you, they just don't want to believe it. I mean, it's not like if you think there's a Bigfoot out in the woods or not. With the Mandela Effect, people can accept that being real, and I always do this to people. I always ask people, okay. I go, all right. Now, some people say Mandela Effect is Matrix. Listen, I'm not into them. I love talking about the Matrix, but we're not living in a Matrix. I'm not a computer hologram, But I always ask people, like, do you believe in time travel? They're like, yes. Okay. So if you believe time travel could be possible, then it's possible that somebody did do time travel and somehow it changed certain things and have those. Now, I know there's different theories on how time travels work. We're not going to go down to 20 different theories, but one of the theories is you change something in the back and it changes everything forward. But how does your mind change with that? Couldn't a change happen? Your mind have a glitch and you ever remember it the old way? So I'm like, if you believe in time travel, then you have to believe the possibility of things have changed. And maybe people are remembering what it was or what it is, and if you if you believe in the multiverse, then maybe some of your memories is that other person of you in the multiverse. And when people believe those, but they can't believe the Mandela Effect, I don't get it. I mean, I don't get it. How can you believe in those and not say then the Mandela Effect, can't be real?
Right. And what's interesting about the Mandela Effect is before podcasting, I did little videos that interested me that I would show, here's my research, here's what the effect is defined as, here are, the Mandela effects that I found. And I was surprised at some of them, and I was looking at them and going, wait a minute, is that? Hold on a second. And it's like I had to pause and be like, how did I never see this one or have any memory of it, but other ones I do. And so that really got me interested too in the Mandela Effect, like Looney Tunes,
Yeah. And
versus
it's not and it's not an easy topic, believe it or not, to have conversations on, because there's so much hatred out there for it. And there's people within because I've been in all communities. There's people within the community. If a change doesn't go through them, they want to fault yours because they want all the changes. They want to be the king of the changes. But the funny thing is, everybody always says this too. That always drives me crazy. Everybody always says that people wake up at certain times in life where they wake up to the changes. They didn't see it before, but now they see it. And I'm always like, well, if it's a change for you, but not you, maybe you just haven't woken up to that yet. You know what I mean? And
right.
They make that rule, but then when somebody has a different, no, it can't be. No, I don't know. To me, it's a pure belief system, really. I mean, honestly, it's a belief system because, yeah, I know the word residue gets thrown away like way too easy. Look at this residue off this website. Listen, for every 100 websites on a story, there's going to be something different,
right.
So to me, it's a belief system, and I care more for like the personal changes that I felt I have gone through. Not the common ones like the Monopoly. Everybody knows that kind of stuff. But like here's one for you. And like I said, everybody in the chat, take it with a grain of salt. I don't expect anybody to have to, believe anything I say. You got the right to choose whatever you want to believe. I always tell it to people on my chat that they have every right to believe what they want to believe. But one year in basketball, I remember even showing the pictures, and my brother was on my channel that day. That beginning of the season, I was wearing a number 12 in basketball because I was a pretty good sports player. I wore number 12 because my favorite college team at the time was Indiana Hoosiers, and they had a player named Steve Alford that was just a 3-shooting bomber on the outside. So I wore his number. But then we got another picture. It's not a 12 no more. It's a 13. That number changed on me. It went from a 12 to a 13. Now that's a personal change for me. Now my brother's seen it. He remembers the 12 and now it's 13. And of course, going through life, some reason I see 13s here and there for whatever reasons. It's almost like I always feel that sometimes if there's a change, if there's a personal change, there's a reason behind it. What that is, I can't tell you. That's what we're searching for. Like why did it change from a 12 to a 13? I don't know. A lot of people say, well, you miss memory. Okay, listen, that's one of the possibilities. But for me, my belief system, I believe there's something more, and I'm still searching on why is that. What's with that magic 13 for me? I remember like I was going to this special a doctor's appointment thing to see if I could approve for a surgery, and I remember like going to the doctor's office, they're sitting me down, they have this window. And there's this like house building, number 13, like shining. And that decision allowed me to have my surgery that it was connected. But it was just weird. I go in there, sit down, I took a picture. I go, look, dude, there's a 13. I think this IME appointment is going to go well, where in most cases, independent medical exams go for the insurance companies and not for you. But in that case, it actually went for me. Was it because of that 13? I don't know, but it's a special change for me. So
I have an interesting question for you about the Mandela effect that you probably don't get asked a lot. And I actually found cases of the effect of what the effect is in like the 1700s, 1800s, and 1900s. But why? What did it take the Nelson Mandela effect to create the name, and that's what everybody associates it to?
See, the phenomenon has always been there. And Fiona Broom, I don't know, a lot of people don't know who Fiona Broom. Fiona Broom is a paranormal investigator. And she was at a party. Because, she writes books. But the phenomenon has always been there. And then she was overhearing somebody talking about where they had a memory that, Nelson Mandela died in the 80s. Not I forgot what year he actually died, but he supposedly died. I can't remember if it was 85, 87.
He
died in prison. It was
but
in
then
prison.
He died again, and so that's where everyone started getting confused.
So the story goes, the real story. Now there's a fake story, and there's like the real story goes when she was sitting down with her editor, and they're talking about this phenomenon, and they're like, that person at the party talked about Nelson Mandela effect. So she says she according to the story is she the one that brought up the name to call it Mandela effect because of that name she heard at a party. But somebody said the true on the ground knows that the editor says we need to sell books, and they named it a Mandela effect because the name, like out of a horror, the name just fits.
Well, and it was a popular topic at the time.
Yeah, and so Fiona Broom gets the credit and token for coming up with the name and all that. But the phenomenon has always been there. But we all know it's the editor, and the name is just to help sell books. She was not a real, true person into the Mandela effect. She just heard other people talk about it, and she kind of took it and stole it. Her editor, they named it, and they made money off of it. Yeah. But it doesn't take away that the phenomenon is not real. It is real. In fact, I always believe that I have to be honest with myself. I'm not a person that's going to jump on every bandwagon with any new effect that comes out. Like every time I hear young people, I have like this age thing. Like so some channels will ask somebody like, what are your top 5 Mandela effects, right? What are your top 5? And now I'll see these young guys, and almost all 5 of them will say Nelson Mandela. And I will honestly say bullshit, and all 5 of you. All 5 of you are lying. Like you weren't even born when
No.
Nelson Mandela supposedly died. So how does that change for you? You were born after the fact where everybody's already talked about him dying twice.
Yeah.
You know, I'm like, just be honest. Pick the ones that you feel were a change for you. Don't jump on the bandwagon. So, and there's people that do that. You know, because the majority of listen, and also when he died in the 80s, we didn't really have 24-hour news channels yet. And most people didn't even have cable TV. So what are the chances that most people even seen the funeral? You know what I mean? And now, I always look at when somebody talks about Nelson Mandela being a change for them, I always like, what's your age? Were you even alive? Were you a kid when you saw that show? Because I remember, I don't know how old this person was exactly. He said, yeah, I saw the change on TV. I'm like, how old are you? And he was like in his 30s. The math doesn't add up.
No. And reality though too is a way, another way to back it up is like, not only do I remember, I didn't necessarily hear it on TV. Well, I'm sure I did, because that would be it's not like I get a African newspaper that says headline news. So I had to hear it on TV, but it's one of those moments.
But you're my age. I could see that with you. I could believe that. But when a 30-year-old person, 40, they weren't there. Yeah. They weren't alive.
Yeah, but I was gonna say the difference is, for me, it's like the day that Kennedy was assassinated. Everyone remembers time stopping at that moment, and it happens to be around that event. And it's like, yeah, to me, when Mandela died in the 80s, it was like, there was a moment where it stopped, because you're like, whoa, this was like a major event. And then you hear it again, and you're like, in the back of your mind, all of a sudden you're like, wait, didn't he already? And it's like, your first question is to question the new news. And it's like, wait.
Yeah. One of the ones that actually really got me looking into it, not just my number change, one of the first main ones, and it is a popular one that everybody does know. I remember my brother goes, remember Moonraker, right? He asked me, do you remember Moonraker?
Right.
Fuck yeah, I know Moonraker, because Roger Moore was my James Bond. That was my age group. Sean Connery was before me. When I was watching, Roger Moore, Moonraker, Roger Moore was that smooth guy, and the movie with Jaws, the big teeth, was actually a mayor of a town above where we grew up in Kerman and Fresno. He was a mayor of a country town. I can't remember exactly, but I remember my brother goes, remember Dolly? I go, yeah, Dolly was the girl that fell in love with Jaws. I go, when they turned around with each other, and Dolly opened her mouth, and she had braces, so she was like a nerd, and he was a creepy old guy with all those metal teeth. So that metal was like their attraction, where they start liking each other. I remember my brother goes, Eric, she never had braces, and I remember like, fuck you, no, he did not. And I remember like, no, and I'm like, and I'm looking it up for like, it was like, and for me it was exciting looking it up like, what do you mean she doesn't have braces? That's the reason why they like each other. Otherwise, it's a creepy old guy picking up on like a schoolgirl. You know what I mean? That image doesn't work. It doesn't work. It was. But then the nayers will say, yeah, Eric, but that was in a Wendy's commercial. I'm like, what Wendy's commercial? Again,
yeah.
We saw these movies on VHS tapes, theaters, VHS tapes. We put it in. We didn't even have cable TV, so I didn't even know what a Wendy's commercial would look like. But again, everybody has different changes, and and I don't put now. Like I said, I know I sound like I crap on some people. That was just because their age did not line up with Nelson Mandela. But any modern day, I don't crap on anybody, because if they say you wake up at a different time in life, then that is a change for you.
I know, and one that got me that it's like I had to think about when I was doing my research. Ironically, was the logo to Fruit of the Loom.
Oh
Because
yeah,
I remember being the cornucopia, and then they show it, and there is no cornucopia, and I'm like, wait, what?
I know, isn't that weird?
And I'm like, I'm even searching the net, like you're saying, looking for those old photos, and somebody will go, "Here's a photo," and I'm like, I know it, I knew it, but it's like, wait.
Yeah. Well, and Fruit of the Loom for people like us, nowadays you got 10,000 different brands making underwear. Back in our day, you really just had Fruit of the Loom and the other brand I forgot. Hanes. You really only had those two brands that you that was the competition you buy from.
Right.
So you kind of know those logos, right? Because you didn't have a lot of choices. So I think for us, that's what makes it hard. It's nowadays there's like 10,000 different logos now. It's just
and what also makes it hard though is, and I kind of have to ding Star Wars, which people who know me, that's really hard for me to do. But so Return of the Jedi, at the end, you see Anakin as the old man. Then there's Yoda.
He was a CGI replacement.
And then they put Anakin in the remake. And so it's like now everyone has to sit there and say, when a movie has a change and going, okay, did they change it or was it an effect?
Well, Star Wars is very interesting because Star Wars was the first movie I ever saw at the theater. 1978. I was 5 years old, and I remember seeing Star Wars. So I know that movie inside out. And there's some changes that I can recognize, but some changes, I don't have. Like a lot of people have memories of C-3PO being all gold. I do remember the legs being slightly silver, and the reflection of the sand made it look gold. But Luke, I'm your father versus no, I'm your father. I do remember the word Luke, but I will tell you this. I will tell you this now. Star Wars is the hardest ones to ever do on Mandela Effect because I did try to prove this once to people because everybody was saying that R2-D2 was changing buttons, like his buttons were changing. And I actually, on the channel, I show them the very first movie on different scenes because they used different robots. They didn't use the same R2-D2. And some of the shots, it was missing. A lot of people don't catch it, but I caught it, because they use a lot of different R2-D2 suits, not just the one. They might have one person in it, but when they do like a knockback, they have something else to do it. So there are different. And now also a lot of people don't know this, that George Lucas, and he did this with Empire Strikes Back. When he put the movie out in theater, Empire Strikes Back in 1981, the ending, if you watch it, you see a lot of ships at the end when Luke and Leia was looking outside, said they're going to get Han back. You saw a lot of ships. The very first original cut in the first 2 weeks that came out, there wasn't a lot of ships. When George said, dude, we got to make a change, he actually put more ships on a 1981 movie when it was still at the theater. It was only been out for 2 weeks. Now that's on call for. Now, digital is easy to do that now. But all I'm getting at is George Lucas has done changes while his movie was at the theater. Even in 1981 when Empire Strikes Back, even though that's hard to do because you got to send real film to cinemas to do those changes, you got to recut. It's not like you send it digitally. So, George did make changes, but I have always said that I always felt that George Lucas is the real true leader of the Mandela Effect because I felt that George Lucas died in a car accident right before he made Star Wars. If people don't know that story, in the 1960s, he wanted to be a race car driver and he crashed his car outside of Modesto. and actually has gone to the hospital where his driving career was over. And that's apparently where he came up with Star Wars in the hospital bed. And now if you look at all his movies, all he does is does changes. I mean, when he made the prequels, it's like that doesn't line up with the first one. And he just wrote whatever, nothing really lined up. And I felt maybe because he has Mandela Effect, maybe he thought he had it connected. If people know Star Wars like maybe we do, the prequels, there was some things that didn't line up. Like when Luke in the original asked Leia, "Do you remember your mom?" Well, if you watch the prequels, they never met their mom because they were both born as twins and they were separated.
And she died when they were born. So how would they know?
Exactly. So I always felt that maybe George had Mandela Effect worse than anybody. And maybe he thought that. And then they try to cover up where, Leia had this gift where she remembers. Okay.
Yeah.
Come on.
I was going to say, the Force was telling her who her mother was. She was seeing images.
I like Danny. Star Trek was better.
Star Trek, though, they kind of do it too, though. They kind of hit on Mandela effects too a little bit, because there'll be like certain scenes where you'll hear something and then they'll say, well, no, that was never actually said. And it's like, what?
Oh, like the famous one, "Beam Me Up, Scotty."
Yeah,
and that was never said. It's oh God, what's the chance? Damn it, I got to type that in.
I think he opens it up and he either says, "Scotty, beam us up," or 2 to beam up, or 3 to beam up, but they never say that line. And they were like, even in the movies, they never say it. And I think in the remakes, they started to get close to saying it just to like kind of make fun of everyone with the effect, going, well, now we're in a new timeline, so we'll give them the line, but they don't really do the line.
Yeah, I'm trying to, because we all do remember Scotty beat me up, and it was something else. But like I said, yeah, even Star Trek, that's a big change, because a lot of us grew up watching Captain Kirk, and the '60s version.
Oh yeah,
that was science fiction. Growing up, science that was top notch.
And what's even funnier is when I first saw it, it's like everything looked so real. It's like you really thought they were pushing buttons and moving things. And you see the Next Generation, Enterprise, Voyager, all of them, and you go back and watch the original, and you're like, how did I ever think that looked like a real control pad? And it's like, wait a minute. It's like our entire vision of the ship is like, this thing looks like a floating model, a toy. It doesn't even look real anymore. And it's like, I feel so robbed by that.
I mean, what are you gonna do, right? I know. It's like one of my favorite movies of the '80s that is The Last Starfighter. And that was the first movie that ever really used computers as the first CGI really type of a show. And you watch it now, I mean, video games graphics looks better than what they did there. But the movie is still special to me, It's, but
I think I even saw that they're finally going to do a part 2 to it.
Yeah, there's been so much talk, and it's almost like now for me, it's like until they have it in production, I don't believe it until I see it.
Well, not only that, but it kind of, in a way, if you do another one, it kind of ruins the first one, because it's like The Last Starfighter. So if you have another one, it's like, how do you have The Last Starfighter then starting the series? It's like, wait a minute. You said the last. Now we're having another one.
And not everybody even seen that movie, so you're not. You know what I mean? I mean, it's not like you got this big cult following that's still alive. that movie only had a tiny following as it is.
And,
but
talking
they
about
can do
that
so much
movie
better now. You know what I mean? With the technology that they got, everybody's got video games in their houses. I mean, the story, you could crack that story wide open nowadays. Doesn't have to be with the machine outside of a trailer park.
Right. And I just thought about something, I was seeing flashes in the movie as we were talking about it, going, that movie was the first to have an android,
yes,
a cyborg replacement, clones,
a DNA clone.
And so it's like that movie has so many things in it that are relevant today, in from the 80s.
Oh, there's I've done a show about that. Did some movies predict the future? Like a lot of people say, people go back and watch Runaway with Tom Selleck about those robots. Go watch Runaway, and the evil guy in it was Gene Simmons played the evil guy in Runaway. And when you watch Runaway, you had the first floating drone that went into the house to find the killer who's holding up with the baby and the person in there. They had the heat missile bullets where they have heat missile bullets now. I mean, that movie, is it Runaway? Tom Selleck, or is it? Hold on, Tom Selleck Runaway movie.
Well, another one too is, if you remember, Erasure.
Runaway. It is called Runaway. 1984.
Yeah. I mean, look at Erasure with Arnold Schwarzenegger. They were able to shoot through walls, concrete, and until recently, it's like the military has always been like, no, and now they're like, oh yeah, we can do that.
Yeah. Now, Danny is right. Now, Invasion of Body Snatcher was the first movie where they used DNA to take over the body. Lost Starfighter, I guess you could say first robot DNA touch, I guess. I mean, It was a robot touching.
Android, kind of.
Android was changing. But take it all. Hey, we are now a movie channel.
No, and I find it so interesting, talking about, seeing these things and not realizing it. It kind of, when we mentioned the paranormal a little bit, I'm going to kind of do a topic shift here for a second because I want to hear this story because it's really interesting. And you probably know where I'm going with this, is your Gettysburg experience where you say you saw reenactors, but there were no reenactors.
Yeah, that's still to this day, that is the most awesome, most coolest, most weirdest thing that has happened that we didn't know was happening. If that makes sense. So people, I know a lot of people that I see in the chat know it's his favorite story, knows the story. What people got to understand is during that time, I moved to Gettysburg. I'm sorry, hold on. I moved to Frederick, Maryland. Frederick, Maryland is like 10 minutes away from Gettysburg. I mean, Frederick is like on the borderline of Pennsylvania. And it's between the two cities, Washington, D.C. and Baltimore. So my wife and the kids, they weren't up there yet because I just moved up there. The idea was I find a place and then, we sell the house back home and then we all come up here. So I was up there. Then my brother, famously known as Dr. Wu, he's an archaeologist graduate from the University of Washington. So my brother's an actual real archaeologist. I know a lot of people look at him with the beard and stuff, they don't realize, no, he's a real archaeologist that graduated from the University of Washington. That's a major college. That's the college, like in the state of Washington. He's a Husky. And so he got a job at the Smithsonian. So he was staying with me. And he's one of the people that worked in the tunnels. We can always invite him on in the future, and you can always talk to him on some of the things that he has seen in the tunnel.
Oh, I'd love to.
But of course we're not. That's his story because he knows what he's seen, and I've heard him saying because a lot of people have shows and ask him about the giants and all that, and my brother gave him real answers. And I think, Michael, if you had him on your show, I think you'll appreciate the answers that he talks about. He actually did talk about the giants, and I think you'll like where he goes with it. Nice. Well, I mean, you should. I mean, he worked there. It wasn't like somebody reading someone else's story. He was physically working there. Well, it was the weekends, right? I hated Washington, D.C. To me, that was one of the most ugliest city. I still can't believe that President of the United States, the White House is in Washington, D.C. And I always said to myself, they can't clean up that city. They're never going to clean up the country because that city was just gross. And then Baltimore, I look at Baltimore like me being from Fresno. Nobody understands that city unless you're from there, So the only place we went on weekends was Gettysburg. I mean, for us, that was like the funnest place. We didn't care about DC. We didn't care about Baltimore. And since my brother worked at the Smithsonian, he doesn't want to go back to DC. So we go on the weekends, and it was a Sunday. It was a Sunday, and my brother wanted to. I know it sounds weird. He wanted to have a smoke in a restaurant. At the time, most states were banning cigarettes, smoking in restaurants. But in Gettysburg, I can't remember the name of the restaurant, but one of the restaurants you can still smoke in it. So he wants to have breakfast there. So we got up early in the morning on Sunday because we always go on Sunday because there's a high influence of people going to church on Sunday out there in that part of the country. Almost everybody go to church, so the roads are more empty on Sunday. So we go to the restaurant. We ate breakfast. He had a smoke, whatever, and then we always drive through the battlefields, the big park area, and the battlefields are just gorgeous. I mean, and there's just something about the battlefield, knowing that thousands of people died here. You know what I mean? I mean the type of energy that could be here is just. I mean, you can almost feel. Even though you might not have an experience every time out there, but you could feel there's something magical about that place. So we're driving,
especially since there was fighting hand-to-hand combat in the city.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh dude. One time, this was so fun. We went on a ghost tour with Gettysburg, and guys, we'll get back to my story, I promise. But it was so cool. We went to it was like a week before 4th of July. And they're already shooting off fireworks. So here you are hearing a ghost story about the Civil War, and you're hearing the fireworks, and it almost felt like we were there. You know what I mean? Like you heard all the sounds. But going back to the story, we were done with breakfast, and we're driving to the park, and we're gonna park, right? And we're driving, and I was like, I don't know how we said it, but like, Bob, look, dude, they're having a reenactment. Look at that. They got the tents up. They got the doctors. I mean, the thing is now everybody in the town wears their Civil War outfits almost all year round. Maybe not your 7-Elevens, but your little stores stuff. They all wear but the white tents are up, and there was like soldiers on the ground, and they look all bloody up. I mean, it was like. Dude, this is a reenactment. This is incredible. We didn't even know there was a reenactment, right? And we thought, and this is like early in the morning on Sunday. We're like, we struck gold because there's no other cars there yet. So we're like, I wonder if we're allowed to park and walk up, right? So we're like, fuck it, let's do it. We parked and we walked up, and we got out of the car. We're walking on the grass, and I still remember this lady. The white silver outfit dress, the not soldier outfit dress, but the white big fluffy dress. She had like this big basket, and she was asking us like, "Did you bring something for the food? Like if you join them, you're supposed to bring something, And I remember her having bread. Now, this is kind of weird, different story. I remember her having bread because I smelt it. My brother said it wasn't bread. He said it was potatoes. She was carrying potatoes for the soup. Now, potatoes and bread, I guess you could say they look like each other, but I always thought that was kind of weird that I remember smelling the bread, and he's swearing to this day that it was potatoes. But we're like, oh, like, man, we just left the battle over the hill over there. We're playing along with it. We're just playing along. Like, so we don't have, we didn't bring anything. Oh, no problem. Just, there's the fire, there's some soldiers sitting around. And I remember watching like people like carrying people, to these doctors, and they have these tables, and like each tent is different. And then before my brother and I sat down, we walked around the tents first. And I still remember this one tent to this day, clear and deal. They had a big ass pot boiling, and there's a guy who cut the guy cut horsehair. And I'm like, dude, that guy cut the horsehair. He I'm thinking, is it against the law to cut horsehair? Can you do that? I mean, I don't know. And
this is like getting real in this reenactment.
Yeah, and they put the hair in the boil pot. We're like, why are you doing that? He goes, we got to stop all these soldiers, all the open wounds and all that. And it said we run out of threads. We run out of to sew people up. So what we do is we take the horsehair and we boiled it to get it soft. So they use the horsehair to sew people up. But then one of the doctors explained to my brother that I think the doctors they capture, I can't remember if my brother said it was north or south, because when they capture other doctors, they force the doctors to work in camp to work on soldiers getting shot. And he's also my brother. Yeah, but we learned something. Because when we were sewing up people with thread, they're all getting affected. So they're all still losing their arms and legs. But when they had to boil hair, it killed the germs. That's where they learned to kill the germs. I mean, that's what they're telling us. I mean, we were sitting here and we're like, this is fucking awesome. And I remember looking at my brother like, dude, these people look so real. I mean, look at that blood. I mean, like, these people are into it. It was tripping me out how into it, these people really are. And I remember my brother looked at another tent. I can't remember exactly, but I do remember we started to sit down with other soldiers around us. And of course, Dr. Wu always plays along, and we're all like eating food, and they're talking about the battle they have. And we're watching this one person get put on a tent, and they took the saw out, and the guy was just screaming like loud. And I'm like, damn, that scream sounds real. The guy's yelling at somebody to put a stick in his mouth. I mean, it was just like, I was tripping out. And the main thing I was tripping out, I go, Bob, we've been here for what? How long now? Almost over 2 hours? How come no other cars are showing up? Nobody else showed up. Just soldiers. We're like, are we just the luckiest bastards out there walking to a reenactment and nobody else is showing up? And I'm like, are people really into church this much where they're not going to a reenactment?
What's interesting too is, where are the cars for the reenactors?
Yeah. Oh, you know what, dude? I never even really thought about that. I was just thinking they parked it in town and they got bussed out there or something. To move, to keep all those spaces. Yeah,
but even still, where would the buses be?
And we're just eating, and we ate the food. And I remember they gave us some beer. And I remember telling my brother, this beer's kind of flat. The beer. I was like, well, they're making it in the back, and whatever. The beer flat was good, but I noticed we were drinking this beer. We weren't getting buzz or nothing. I'm like, man, I'm not getting a buzz. Huh. Oh well, it's a good thing. I was the driver. I shouldn't be getting buzz anyway, right?
Right.
And we were there for felt like a good, I don't know, 4 or 6 hours, just kicking back, talking to the soldiers. They're bringing people in, being knocked out. And they had a special tent for for the colonels, for the big shot, like the officers. They get special doctors. They get all the special tools. You don't even get to see when they go in, but all the enlisted people, they get the open tents. They get the worst. You know what I mean? They don't get no drugs, no nothing, no alcohol. I mean, but if you were there, you will know what I'm talking about. When you see like the bloods on the ground, it was just real. I mean, it was just like this is like the best reenactment. I've seen reenactment before where they might put a little blood here. But I mean, this blood stuff was almost everywhere. They had like buckets under the tent that were full of blood, you know, and it was just like incredible. Like this is incredible. Like, these people go all out, but I just feel bad for them because nobody showed up, just us. Now, so you know, when we got a little bit later, we thought, okay, you know, it's getting kind of late now. I get, you know, kind of late. So we decided to go. We told everybody we're going back to our troops. Back, I can't remember what my brother said. We're going back over the hill. You know, they just made us come over here. So we got in the car, and then we took off. Now I remember the light got brighter, and my brother saying because we left the area, there might be another reason why things went brighter. But I remember I looked at our clock because it felt like 4 or 6 hours. But when we looked at our clock, I can't remember. It was like less than an hour that we were there. Like, no freaking way. We're there longer than that. There's no way. We were just, you know, like we just showed up and spent like 15, 20 minutes and left. We were there for like 4 or 6 hours. But according to our clock, we're there, you know, yeah, I can't remember now. It was way less than 2 hours, like an hour. But regardless, right? We're like, I don't know. I go, the beer had no alcohol because none of us were drunk, but maybe we were. Who knows? So we went back to Frederick, Maryland, treated it like nothing. I worked for a cable company. I was a supervisor for a cable company, Philadelphia, which became Comcast. And my brother went back to Smithsonian. And then when I got back to the house, Bob got off the train, and he goes, "Eric, I got to tell you something." He goes, I was telling the people at work that, you know, we had an awesome time at this reenactment down in Gettysburg, and he guess what? They said, "What reenactment?" There was no reenactment. My brother said, "No, yeah, we went to a reenactment." No, we know about all reenactments. You know, when they have reenactments, you gotta get permits with, you know, Pennsylvania, and then they always ask us if they could borrow this and this and this for their reenactments. Like, you know, they actually have like uniform stuff that they can rent out, you know, for these reenactment stuff. And they go, "No, there is no reenactment." And when he told me this, I'm like, "The fuck!" I was like, No. They were, yeah, I mean, we were there. And I remember, you know, like, hold on a second. You know, we made a phone call, like down to we made a phone call to someplace, but the main office part, the mayor, whatever you want to call it, the city hall, they were already closed. But we called some number down there, and they said there was no reenactment. But the next day, we drove down there, and like we're like playing it off, went to a couple stores, and like, hey man, that reenactment that last Sunday was fun. And every worker at these stores, no, we didn't have no reenactment this last Sunday. And then when the weekend comes, my brother got a hold of somebody in the city hall. No, because there's no reenactment, there's no permits, there's no nothing. And we went back to where we were at, because there's got to be dents and stuff in the ground, because you just had tents. You had dead bodies laying on the grass. You had the blood. And we go out there, and it was like perfect, normal grass, like any other part of the thing. Like no tents were up. And it was one of those things that it's almost like there's no way that could be whatever it was. It had to be reenactment, because I told this to people. When you see like a ghost, if you ever seen like a ghost, you can kind of like see through them, right?
Right.
and all that, and I could believe that this thing was too real. It's like you can't believe something when it's too real looking. It doesn't match what an energy spirit was supposed to look like. Like, you know what I mean? Like if these were all ghosts or spirits, you would know, I would think.
Well, and the fact that you were able to communicate would too raise questions of.
We were having conversations. Now, Jessica Jones came on the channel saying, maybe you guys stepped through a portal. And you know what? I have to accept that more than itself being a ghost, because one of my main research is I always want to have a conversation with the ghost. And I agree with Danny. It had to be more time travel or a portal type of deal, because they were too real. I mean,
no, I actually have a piece from a guest that I had on one of my shows. Her name is Dr. Heather Lee Langdon. And I was telling her about an experience to where I was like, I could smell the gunpowder in the air in a battlefield. I could see all the troop movements. I could feel everything. And she goes, when all your senses are engaged in that moment, you are in that moment. You have shifted time to that moment. That's not a memory. You are actually seeing and witnessing the event. So take that for what you want, but I would say that validates your saying, portal or time traveling, or, your experience, it really, she's a doctor and it's obviously a real thing.
And if anybody in the chat, if you just look, I put a link because I made a 5-6 minute like a CGI documentary of that thing. So anybody after the show wants to go click on that link, I made a little video of it, where my brother and I got the story, exactly down. So anybody wants to see it, it's right there.
So, Eric, we have a comment here. Crossroads Meets the Ocean Rose says she loves the passion in your story, I'm guessing. And she actually is having a birthday today. So, happy birthday to you, Crossroads.
Is she still there in the chat? Because I could, we could sing her a happy birthday song if she wants it.
Let's go.
What's your real name?
Crossroads
Meets the Ocean.
We'll just call her Crossroads.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Crossroads. Happy birthday to you. And that name, and it matches, right? Gypsy Road, Paranormal Highway. We got some roads and highway mixing there.
I know.
I like it. Now that after us singing that song, your show will probably be shut down.
I know. I always tell people I don't have a singing voice, so if you want to be taken off the air, I'll sing for you.
We did try to wonder what could cause that. Like my brother's like, maybe he accidentally went into something in the Smithsonian that has something, but I'm thinking more like there was some kind of a portal time travel type deal, because if you think about thousands of soldiers that died there, the energy that's around that place is massive. It's.
Well, not only that, but if you look at the timeline, you said you were there a week before July 4th, which is.
Well, no. I'm sorry. No, that story that happened. God, I have the dates. No, that happened sometime in September. That story. My wife finally moved up there, and my brother and his kid was up there. So me, my brother, and our 2 kids. Now this is kind of interesting. Like I said, we went on that tour in July. So this is
Okay,
after.
the tour was in July. Okay.
Yeah, the tour was in July. That happened. We happened in September before my wife was up there. But we went after with the tour with the sound effects. When we went, they took us to the battlefield, not the exact battlefield where we were at. My brother, my nephew, and my son swears to this day that they actually seen a couple soldiers standing out there in the grass. Now, none of us grown ups, we didn't see that, but they said they seen that. And I do believe that kids can see certain things that we can't. Is it because they're younger, their minds are still developing? But I truly believe that they did see some spirits because, I mean, listen, if my brother and I have seen what we've seen, there's nothing off the table.
No.
Now every time we went back, we always go there on the weekends. That incident has never happened again when we go back. But I've always tell people that Gettysburg is a place that everybody should visit just once, and it's not as big as people think. It's a really tiny little town. You could drive through it in 5 minutes, but the history that's in that town is just amazing. Like you said, a lot of those buildings had bullet holes. The people died in that town, not just on the battlefields.
Right, and the funny thing about it, I mean, not that any battle is funny, but Lee's cavalry, is the story they tell it, was late getting to the party, so to speak. And the Union had sent their cavalry in ahead, and the two met unexpectedly. And so it was like everyone was like scrambling to go, okay, who's going to get what ground? Oh my God. They're here. And so it's like, it's amazing that it was a 3-day battle that took place in a town that was never supposed to be a battle, had no strategic importance other than it was the town close to where they were going to make the turn to go towards Washington, D.C. And so it's like one of those historical moments of pure coincidence of unexpected landing right in front of each other. So you got to think even that energy of going, being the cavalry guys going, holy crap, Lee's army is right on the other side of town. What the hell? And Lee's army going, wait a minute, there's Union cavalry. That means there's an army nearby. What, we're not supposed to fight here. What's going on? So that energy too playing into the battle of the surprise.
Yeah. Well, remember, these people were farmers, they're fighting their brothers in some cases. They're fighting family members who just decided to join the other line. I mean, these people didn't want to be there.
No.
And have your life. And people, and these bullets are round, these things, when they hit you, they blow you up from the inside. I mean, these are even crueler way to get shot. I mean, and a bunch of people saying time to go. It's and I'm dying. I wish, if I would have known we were in something like that, what you start thinking back, like, I wish somehow we would have known, right? Because maybe we could have asked more questions, study more, but you didn't know, you know what I mean? That's the worst thing, that we didn't know.
That or be like the paranormal investigator and me being like, I would have taken out my camera and filmed some, or had a body cam or something on and filming this.
Yeah, and I would have asked their names, write it down so I can find it. You know what I mean? Like find it on something. But
But though, an effect too is what a gift that is to be able to have experienced that, because you have actually, whether you slipped through time or whatever it was, that's not the important thing. What the important thing is, you got to actually converse with, eat with, experience a day of with these people during this tragic event and be like, this is what life was like then. This is what we experienced.
But it's so hard. It's still to this day, it's so hard to like, you know, that just can't happen. You know, something is too real. You know, but again, like you said, there's tons of stories of people waking up with certain, you know, certain different eras in time. And like, is there is there a reason? Were we trying to be shown something, or was it just a magical portal just happened to, you know what I mean? It's like there's so many things you want to know, you know, and you wonder, are you ever going to find the answers to it? You know,
And here's an interesting theory too: is because they talked to you and seen you and accepted you as normal as one of them, meaning soldier. Could you have slipped into a past version of yourself that was there?
a past life.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I had a medium named Amber's Paraworld said I have 8 past lives, and maybe one of the 8s was there.
Yeah, because, I mean, if you think about it, I mean, you're not in uniform. Walking up, their first reaction would be like, who are you? You don't look like you belong here. But instead, they're like going, hey, well,
Yeah, you're right.
You want some beer? You want some food?
Yeah. And we know we weren't in, uniforms. We were in our street clothes, but it's still hard to how real just everything just. Oh man, it's God. I only if I wish I could go back somehow. I just. Or you're right, maybe because we were in the military, family military. I don't know. Maybe it allowed us to go there because we know what's like being a soldier. Not like they had it in the middle of a civil war type of deal, but I don't know. It's like
it could be the military energy. It just allowed you to appear in there and
also we're open-minded. I mean, we've always been open-minded ever since, we're kids, like when we had our Bigfoot experience when I was 11 and stuff down there, seeing a Bigfoot for the first time was not a shocker to any one of us because we were always taught that they were real in the first place. Because got to remember, again, in the 80s, we didn't have internet TV. We didn't have, we didn't really have a library.
Back in the 80s, we had, what was it, Harry and the Hendersons?
Was that in the 80s? Oh, yeah. I remember that movie.
The 90s?
Was that movie in the 90s?
God, but still, it was like, that was our exposure to Bigfoot. there was no, there was no shows or movies or anything. It was like, that was the first thing to introduce Bigfoot.
Yeah, so even when we saw Bigfoot at one time, and, of course, everybody, I think Danny now knows the story. How all us kids jumped out of the car and tried to go after it. And until this day, I always say I blame it on our family because they always talk to us like Bigfoot, like bears and animals. You got to respect their land. You got to respect the bears. You got to respect the deers. And they always mention Bigfoot. This is their land, their country. Respect them. Again, I remember I told people this all the time. I remember going back to the school and say, yeah, we finally got to saw Bigfoot. And they look at you like, Bigfoot doesn't exist. What do you mean he doesn't exist? He does exist. We've seen one, but people are like, well, how can you believe in the first one? Well, think about it. Everybody believes in Santa Claus in their time in life, but people talk about it so much like it's real and there's no TVs and stuff. You don't know that people think it was fake or it's a myth.
So I'm curious with your Bigfoot, investigations and stuff, because to find a lair or house or anything that like you could say here's where they live, they're so rare. Do you feel like the Bigfoots actually come through UFOs or portals and they don't
No,
actually
not
live
me.
here?
Not me. I think Bigfoot is always been part of this world, even way in the past. I really truly think that the Bigfoot is smarter than us. They know when we're coming. They can smell us. Like I saw that movie last night, Sasquatch Sunset. Loved the movie. Now the only negative thing about it is the movie doesn't show them being smart. I think Bigfoot are smarter than we think.
Oh
That's
yeah,
why they don't get caught. And the part of the woods they're in, most humans are not in there. I mean, if you think about animals and dogs, dogs can sniff miles away. And I really feel Bigfoot, Sasquatch, they can smell a human far away. Like Green Berets and Green Berets, Navy SEALs, they can sneak on
Rangers.
anybody. You won't even see them. They don't even have to know the area. They know how to sneak up. When you go in the woods, these Bigfoot, they are the Green Berets of the forest. You won't see them. They know how to camouflage. I mean, that's their home.
Yeah, I almost feel like they're like guardian elements of nature.
Oh, I always ask somebody, okay, how many times? I always ask somebody, how many times you been to mountains? They're like, well, I don't know, I've been 100 times. Okay, how many times have you seen a deer? They might say, I probably saw a deer about 30 of the times. Well, how many times have you seen a bear? You might be lucky you say one or two.
Yeah,
I'm like, well, you don't even really see a bear. That tells you right there that if you only see maybe a bear maybe once or twice, that seeing a Sasquatch is going to be almost 0 to 1.
yeah. I went to a place in near Broken Bow, Oklahoma, and they had a shirt, and it said Sasquatch, Bigfoot, hide and seek champion.
And the funny thing is now I live in the state of Washington. At the time we saw Bigfoot, of course, we were in the Yosemite Mountains, Yosemite Sierra Mountains in California, and we moved to Washington. It's supposed to be the #1 state of the most sightings ever, Bigfoot. I never seen anything close again to ever. I never seen any evidence ever again to say they're here. That was the only time I ever seen it. Just that one time. It doesn't mean they're not there. It's just, sometimes I don't care how good of a tracker or how good of a hunter. I do feel it's being at the place at the right time, right place. And I always felt that the reason maybe we got to saw one is at the time in the 80s when we go camping, we camp in the same spot every single year. There was a respect factor beyond with hunters at one time in history where that's their spot. That's you don't go to the Wood family spot. It wasn't like you're camping next to somebody. Everybody's like miles apart. And you kept it. Nowadays, everybody steals everybody's spot. There is no honor system no more.
No.
And I honestly feel to this day that Bigfoot knew us because we were there every year, and I felt he knew that we respect the land. We follow the laws. We don't hunt does. We were it's a buck or not. We don't go off scale. No bear hunting. Actually, I do have cousins do bear hunting on bear season, but I really truly felt it knew us, and I felt to this day it allowed us to see him.
Yeah,
Because when we saw him, dude, it was standing, wasn't behind a tree or nothing. It was right there by the trees, wide open to see him.
yeah, and I like how you put because they understood you and knew you. Is I know a guy who I say I know. I've seen him do lectures, and he's got native background, and he says that the Bigfoot are beings and they are intelligent, and that if you approach them with respect and you treat them with respect and give them offerings, you may get some contact with them. But if your intentions are, oh, we want to just photograph you, or we want to, like a hunter go, get the trophy, the Bigfoot's going to look at you and be like, I'm standing right next to you, and you ain't getting crap.
I feel they can feel you. They can feel what kind of person you are. They know if you're not there for a good reason. Because bad people have a bad aura. And I feel they know auras.
Yeah. So we're actually getting close to an hour and 20 minutes. Where can people find you if they want to see some of your activities or your stories?
What I'll do is I'm gonna put my channel link right here, and I'll post it right here, and then it's Paranormal Highway, and then in my description I have all the links there. Like I have a TikTok account, of course, Instagram, Twitter, so if they want to go through all that, all they got to do is go through my channel, and it's all in the description. And I do a show almost. I do live shows. I do definitely live shows like this, how we're doing it, Tuesdays and Thursdays, and my brother comes on Fridays. Now, lately, on Mondays and Wednesday, and those shows are at 2 p.m. Pacific time, but on Mondays and Wednesday, I'm going live, like I'm on trails. Now, I can't guarantee those to be like clear, because I'm not home on the internet. I'm using the cell internet from the phone, but it's me walking and just talking and just telling stories, just bullshitting with people, telling stories. And if they really want to know like who I am, I put up a video. I'm getting it right now on Sunday. And it's called "If You Want to Know the Real Me." So I'm gonna put that link up, and I kind of gave people. Sometimes when I go on these walks, it's like spiritual for me, and when you get in that mode, you just get in that. I told everybody how I grew up, like, so they kind of understand where I'm coming from in life, like,
right.
Living in a apartment complex that was designed for illegal aliens from Mexico. We had to live there for years next to an auction. I never had a bedroom in my life, so I kind of gave everybody the story where the mountains were my like hideouts. That was my paradise, because a lot of people don't know I was born like 70-80% deaf. I had an operation to hear and stuff. So I had to go through a lot of stuff in life, And so in that video, I kind of explained everything, like certain words. I have problems saying words and all that. So if people just want to know like the personal side of me, check it out. Tomorrow, like I said, I'm gonna go live on one of the trails, and the subject could be anything, and it's just me talking and walking, because it's hard to do a certain topic, because when you're walking and talking, I can't look up the computer. I can't look up information. So it's just me flowing.
Well, not only that, when you're walking, you may see something that's really interesting, and you're like, well, you guys are here. Let me just share it with you. And then it sidetracks everything.
Yeah. I don't know, like, if people are into the UFOs and stuff, the area that I do a lot of my walking is where the famous Mary Island incident story has happened, in the town of Des Moines. That's where I live. So, sometimes I'll do a lot of talk about that UFO that I feel that's a bigger, greater story than Roswell, because it happened 2 weeks prior to Roswell. And I always tell people to this day that the Roswell crash is part of the UFOs that was spotted over Seattle in 1947, 2 weeks prior to Roswell. And I make my case and all that. And I do a lot of that while I'm walking. It's like just me talking and walking. And so
that's really cool.
I'm talking too much. I'm sorry about that.
Oh no, you're good. But so one thing I like to ask the guests when we're at the end of the episode and before I say my thank yous is something that I find is really interesting, what answers you get from everyone. And what it is from your life experiences. Could be any topic, anywhere. What is one golden nugget you would like to give the listeners of the show from your personal experiences?
Well, my always nugget is personal experience is always going to be this Gettysburg stuff because that's the most passionate thing for me in my life because it's one of those things that for myself that you do. I know it sounds weird. You want to slap yourself in the face sometimes because you're like, it was too real. It can't be real, but it had to be real because it happened. We were there. I mean, and you can look up the history. You can look up there was no reenactments, and one of the things I always tell people, and we weren't planning it. We weren't, it just happened. And if I could do it again in a way, seize your moment. If any of you guys feel like something is off, you're somewhere else, seize the moment, investigate it while you're there, because you don't know what tomorrow is going to bring. You know what I mean?
I
like
do.
now, anywhere I go now, if I feel something might be off, I'm researching it more than ever because of that experience. Seize that time, ask those questions, never be afraid, because I realized myself, and I've told this 1,000 times on my channels, that we're a small community because the majority of the people in this whole world don't believe in none of this stuff. And it's not that they don't believe in it, they don't care to believe in it. A lot of people just don't care. So, we're a small community and it's important for everybody to tell their story. And I know a lot of people might not want to go on YouTube and all that. You can email myself. You probably, Michael, you probably have email address for yourself, Paranormal Highway 13 at gmail.com. I have Graph Hopper in the chat. Email me his story. I have people email me a story, Tell me their stories. I'll tell your story for you on air. I just want people to understand that, we're here to be voices for people that are not comfortable yet for their own voice to be heard.
No, I think that's beautiful that you do that. And that is quite a gift that you're offering people is because, I have some guests that are like, I don't do podcasts. I don't feel comfortable. And I'm like, well, what about conversations? And they're like, oh, I love conversations. I'm like, well, we can do the show like a conversation. And they're like, okay. And then they're like, hey, that was a lot of fun. And it's getting over the fear of, the experiences. And so I think it's great that you give them that gift because then they can see, yes, they're getting your passion to the story, but they're also seeing people are wanting to know more about that story. So maybe that gives them more courage to come forward, knowing people are interested and aren't going to mock them.
And I hope it helps them because they might have a similar story like this does happen to other people. And you just can't be, you can't be afraid to say it. You don't have to say it on air. You can email it to people, but just get it out of your system. I always say, we got to hear more of this. It's like a puzzle. When you hear all the stories, you start putting the puzzle together. And you're like, 5 of these people said this, and they're in the exact same area. You know what I mean? You could pick up from different people's stories where they're at, and you can start putting the puzzle together. And it's like a mystery. It's unfolding itself. That's what I love the most when you're like unfolding and
absolutely.
I could talk for hours.
No, and I'll definitely want to have you back on and we can talk more about a lot of these topics, but I am going to say goodnight for now. And thank you to Eric for taking a chance and coming on the show because I know we had not met prior. So I know some people are a little iffy about that, but thank you.
I don't care. You know, if people want to talk, let's talk. That's how you do it. You just got to do it. You just got to talk.
I love it. And thank you to everyone in the chat room and those that we didn't get to your questions. I apologize. We'll save them for next time, and maybe we'll be able to answer them then.
And Danny Statton's from South Carolina. He's my man. He's an awesome guy. So, he sends me comic books, so I have to say that. He sends me comic books, so I have to say he's a nice guy, right?
That's a good hookup to have.
No, dude, Danny, his channel, he's got comic books on the walls. He's got so much comics. That man is a encyclopedia for comics. He really is. Wow.
That's really cool. So, all right. So, good night, everyone. Wherever you are in the world, make it a blessed day, afternoon. Take and fill it with love and joy. We need more of that in the world. And like Eric pointed out, you know, don't be afraid to share your story. And if you are, find a way to get it out there. Whether sending it to someone or writing it down, and maybe years later or months later, you'll look back at it and go, hey, I remember this story. I want to share this because someone mentioned something similar. So don't be afraid to share your stories when you're ready. So thank you all and have a great night.
See you guys later.
Bye-bye.